From Relay FM, this is Upgrade episode 462, recorded live from Apple Park. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, Fitbod, and Notion. My name is Mike Hurley, and I'm joined, sitting right next to me, by Jason Snell. Hi, Jason.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Hurley told me earlier today, and I can report this exclusively here on Upgrade, that this is one of the greatest days of his life.
It is indeed. I made it. I have dealt with lots of jokes at the expense of my friends about if I would make it to the keynote today, and I'm happy to report I made it to the keynote today.
Yeah, you were right behind me.
I was right behind you. We were
in the sun. There's a very narrow part of the
We were in the sun for a short period of time.
Yes, and then the sun went away behind you.
We actually had really good seats for that reason. So there was a kind of like tons of seats outside, half under a canopy, and then some kind of sitting behind, right? Like kind of like it kind of in towards the building. And we were right on the edge, so at first there was sun there, so no one was sitting there. So like, all right, we'll sit there. But then as the sun went away, because time moves the sun, that's how that works.
That's not...
It is. No, that's how it works. And then we were in the shade. It was lovely, and we had great seats.
We did.
For quite an incredible time.
Quite a show, yeah.
So we're just going to get through what we're going to get through so we can start talking about all the announcements of today. So, Keynote was incredible. I had a wonderful time. It was amazing to watch it. We got to go to the Steve Jobs Theater. I went there for the first time. Just amazing. I'm going to take some time to process all of this. I think it's
a big day.
It's got to settle in for me a little bit.
Big day for Mike.
We have some new merch available. If you go to upgradeyourwardrobe.com, you will find a selection of designs to celebrate the summer of fun, which is kind of going to start next week because we're going to record it in person in your garden.
Indeed.
Very summery. But we brought back a bunch of summer of fun designs, including a brand new design, which is the Dongletown Surf Shop. Do you want to tell the Gradients about that?
It's you walk down to the beach there in Dongletown, and there's Thunderbolt Dock is right there. And Thunderbolt Dock, as you may know, is a world famous surf shop.
Yep.
So the Thunderbolt Dock Surf Shop tee is now available, along with a couple of classic summer of fun. And just for the next couple of weeks. So get in there.
Do not miss it.
Buy many, buy them soon.
Upgradeyourwardrobe.com. Now we move into draft results.
Yes.
So we actually did some adjudication.
Yes, at the quiet ceremony adjacent to this podcast studio at Apple Park. Mike and I got together, had a discussion.
Yep.
And consulted with Stephen Hackett on a key feature. And we've decided and have shaken hands on it that the final score was 10-10.
Yes.
With Mike winning on the tiebreaker because the keynote was about 2 hours and 5 minutes long.
Yes. I was, we were getting like an hour and 56, and I'm like, oh, the tiebreaker's going to me.
No, yeah.
Because they were like, now let's talk about the technology. And I'm like, oh, I'm good.
At about 150, I thought, oh, no, we've gone. It's not going to happen now.
So we'll probably go through another time the actual scoring maybe, because, again, there's a ton to do today. But I'm happy with that 10-10.
Well, the key thing to know about this is we did the other category. I went into the other category thinking firmly that there would be no Mac stuff announced here. Mere days after we recorded that, it became clear that Mac stuff would be announced here, and that was pretty much all she wrote.
Yep.
Yeah, take it in.
Yeah, I'm happy to win, so I'm like keeping the draft.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the draft dream alive.
Yes.
I reckon there's probably only one more event this year.
Probably.
So
I mean, you never know, but probably.
It feels like maybe. So, well, who knows, actually, because this is the thing that I'm most surprised about. We're going to talk about in depth the reality. No, wait, it's not. It's called Apple Vision Pro.
Apple Vision
Pro.
It's a classic, a name from history brought back.
But the timing of it is interesting to me. I guess we'll hear more about it in September, but we might not.
Might not. Might be.
It might wait until like December
early next year.
Maybe, or early in the year,
early next
when
year,
it's available.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating. All right, but we need to get into Apple Vision Pro. Let me take our first break, and we'll start breaking it down.
All right.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell your products, services, and the content that you create. Squarespace has you covered. With Squarespace, you can use insights to grow your business. If you've ever wondered where your site visitors are coming from, where your sales are coming from, they can tell you all of that by analyzing all of this information and giving it to you in their amazing system. You can then use that data to improve your website and build a marketing strategy based on your top keywords, keywords or most popular products and content. You can get stuck in with their SEO tools to make sure that you're maximizing prominence among search results. You can have a blog to share your stories, your photos, your videos. You can have Squarespace email campaigns so you can get people to sign up and become email subscribers. You can have an online store. You can have everything. Squarespace is the all-in-one place to go if you want to set up a website of your own. I've been using Squarespace forever. As long as I've been producing things online, which I realize has been about 15 years now, I've been using Squarespace. It's where I go to set up my websites, and it's where you should go to look for yours. Go to squarespace.com/upgrade, and you can sign up for a free trial with no credit card required. Then when you're ready to launch, use the offer code UPGRADE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That is squarespace.com/upgrade, and then when you sign up, use the offer code UPGRADE to get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of this show and all of Relay FM. I maybe have never felt less prepared for a show than I feel right now.
Yeah, we two things. First off, we last night were talking about this, and there comes a moment when those of us who enjoy preparing for podcasts or anything else in life realize there's literally nothing more you can do because we don't know the answers until 10 a.m. on Monday. And so you can't prepare in advance. You really can't. And then secondarily, we've been running around Apple Park all day, whereas normally you are watching from somewhere and watching the keynote, and then afterward you do some diligent work, and I'm running around and don't know what's going on, and then you tell me. So what's going on?
My biggest thing, and I have no doubt, because the Upgradians have been listening to the show forever, they know our stories. I decided today to not take notes during the keynote. I wanted to sit and just watch it and enjoy it and be around all my friends and like have that experience rather than sitting there as I would normally do and taking all my notes. So we're going a little bit more off the dome today, but I thought it would be best to start by talking about Apple Vision Pro.
Yes.
Straight up the name.
Good name.
Good name.
Good name. I looked, and I don't think we ever predicted it, although I think maybe I saw or participated in a conversation somewhere where it came up as a list of possible names.
Yeah.
And because somebody mentioned, because Apple Vision, at one point, there was a monitor called Apple Vision. I think in the early Power Mac era, Apple had a branded monitor called Apple Vision. So name floating out there. I like it. I think it's a better name than any of the other names that were rumored about it. I think it's actually a very good name.
And is it Vision OS?
It is Vision OS.
Yeah.
Good. Also a good name. Reality
so
or
better.
XR or VR or AR. Yeah, just
got to hand it to the marketing team there. They did it.
Thumbs up.
And also how interesting it is that, I mean, I do wonder, if they were trying to lead people off this, because there are a lot of trademarks, right?
I think at one point you're doing it to cover all your bases, and then at another point you keep it going because what you really want to do is not give it away.
And also, as we say, like, who knows when this part is actually decided? It's like one of the least important things in the overall idea of creating the presentation.
The product does not come out until 2024. Yeah. There are no boxes, right? Yes. There's no story here. There's no developer story. There's literally a price and next year, and that's it. So they can call it, I mean, honestly, they could have called it anything.
I think there's going to be more of a developer story over the next couple of days. Because they gave some basic kind of outlines of we're using the same tools and this is stuff and, and I think one of the presenters did say that there would be more this week and more this year.
Right.
I expect the state, as for context, because saying about not being prepared. So we watched the keynote, went to the hands-on area. I went and got a coffee, and then we came straight to record. And you also had a briefing in that time when I was grabbing a drink. And so we are currently counter-programming the State of the Union, which I have no doubt they're talking about in the State of the Union. And I'm sure that there will be a bajillion sessions.
Sure.
Because it's what people want to know.
I mean more that there was no sort of like, how do developers get their hands on the hardware, which maybe that story will happen too. But the point is, this product is not, like, we got a lot of products today that we'll talk about later where it seemed like they were never going to come out, or they were not going to come out for a very long time. And then they're like, oh yeah, next week it'll be there. This was not that, right? This is so far out there, and this is a unique chance where Apple has a brand new product that they can pre-announce it, they can lay all the groundwork they want in whatever way they want, and they don't have to, I mean, literally they could have changed, other than recording the videos, like the night before they recorded the videos for this, they could have changed the name if they had wanted to. So they have that freedom that they don't usually have.
but they chose a great name.
I think it's a good name. Yeah.
We talk about the hardware a ton, obviously, right? But the biggest thing is the screen on the front. The eyesight, right? Is that what that's called? Eyesight, right? It seemed before today like an impossible thing to get to look right. But in all of the imagery, and again, neither of us have actually seen. I've seen the hardware, but not on,
right.
Or like just playing like it wouldn't have eyes,
right?
From the photos, from the videos, they've nailed that, and that is ingenious.
Yeah, I want to give some credit to Mark Gurman, who kept by this when everybody else was like, "This seems unreasonable."
Yep.
And we were talking about this again last night when we were hanging out. I keep thinking, and I kept thinking in this last week, that Apple, I really believe that all those stories about the debate about does headset technology, do VR and AR separate you from the real world and separate you from people. And if you look at this presentation, you can see the care that Apple took every step of the way, including in the hardware, to make a product that is harder, a lot harder, to accuse of not caring about human interaction and not caring about cutting people off from the world. And the screen is a part of that story. The fact that they made it a lenticular lens, which is, if you ever bought like a baseball card or a collector's card of some kind, where it's got the funny kind of, or a DVD even, where it's got the funny ridges so that when you move it, it looks like the person is moving or they're in 3D. Mm-hmm. That is what lenticular is, and that's what the screen is. And the idea there is, if you're to their left, it's like you're looking in from the left, and if you're to their right, it's like you're looking in from the right. Okay. So it's giving this illusion of depth that furthers the idea that this person, you're actually sort of seeing through, even though there's hardware in the way. It's like you're seeing through ski goggles or something to their eyes.
That's what it looks like.
And that's the effect that they want, and the idea that it also serves. Let's talk about Google Glass for a second. One of the big criticisms of Google Glass was like, oh, they may be videoing me, they may be, taking pictures of me. And they had a whole story here, which is, first off, if you see the eyes, they're looking at you. If you don't see that, they can't see you. Yeah. They also then had the idea that you could be in this environment, but then if somebody walks up to you, you see them, which
that was an incredible moment.
Everybody was like gasping at that.
Yeah.
And so
like this lady who's the size of a mountain, right? Like she was looking out on like a vista of mountains or something like that.
Yeah,
and then like a colleague comes and sits down, or a friend sits down, and there's just like sitting next to the mountain.
So you end up with this scenario, and then the privacy angle, which I thought was so good that it's very typical Apple, but I thought it was really well done. The idea that you have all these cameras that are looking out over your house. Well, what is that? Where does that camera data go? Yep. And the answer is nowhere. We're not going to let it go anywhere. And when you see people, where does that go? And the answer is nowhere. We're not going to let that go anywhere. And that's part of the story too. But fundamentally, I think Apple is trying to approach this product from the most humane standpoint possible, which is you should be able to see your surroundings when you want to, and people should know what you're doing, and it shouldn't cut you off unless you totally want to be cut off. I did like that moment where they're on an airplane and it's like, goodbye.
Yeah, that was great.
But even on an airplane, I'd kind of like to know if somebody's trying to get my attention,
well,
right?
People come up to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that they did a really good job of telling that story, which I have to say, last night when we were talking about it, I felt like if I would bet anything, it would have been that they would have done that.
And I think the story started immediately with Tim Cook and the way they're positioning this product. This is an AR product. That is what this is.
Yeah.
It looks like a VR product. It will work like a VR product if you want.
It will.
But for Apple, this is an AR product.
They leaned into augmented reality.
Yeah.
The
majority of the demos are looking into an environment.
Every context was you're going to start in the real world.
Yes.
You start the product in the real world. You start any experience in the real world. And then they would say, or, you can watch a movie in your house, or you can watch it on Mount Hood or in space or whatever, right? Like, okay, that's great. But they always start with, you're working in your office and somebody comes up to you. Or you can turn that dial, you can turn that digital crown dial and turn your back on the world. But you have to choose to exit the world. And that, again, without changing the hardware or software at all, you could make claims that this is a VR product that has AR. you could do that because it will do that. We didn't even see any games that are pure VR experiences, which is like the #1 application for VR.
One of the presenters said during that part, this is just the start of the gaming story for Vision Pro. And I feel like that was like, hey, yes, we have only shown you someone playing a PlayStation with a PlayStation controller, which is not gaming for this device, realistically.
So it feels extremely intentional to me that they really didn't want to show cut off experiences that weren't influenced by the real world.
Yeah. Because it was all like no fitness demo. And like I turned to _score about this and he was surprised that maybe the second time.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they'll show games then, maybe they'll show fitness then when maybe people have had more time to sit on it.
They will certainly have at least one more opportunity to introduce the world to this product. This is step one.
Yep.
And I think that they've held some things back, not even necessarily for technical reasons, but because they want to tell this very particular message about what this product represents. And it is connected to reality, not turning your back on reality.
Spatial computing. That's the term that we're going to be very used to hearing. That's the new term. That's what this is. And it's, you know, I was joking about this on Connected, but I think we're here. It's like the age of skeuomorphism is back, like, but it's different now. But the UI design has a tactility to it. It looks like it's real, like it's physical. Things laid on top of each other, like even the app icons, there's like a distance between the background and the foreground. There was a lot of that going on. And this idea of, we saw it, right? Like you'd open an app and your other app would go to the left and you'd look over there and you would be able to see your apps and like it's all kind of physically around you. That's what this is. They're calling it the spatial computing device. Like that's what Vision OS is going to be.
Wearable spatial computing. It's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of the stuff has been maybe sort of second rate. Like it's a game machine, or it's using a phone processor, or it's tethered to a game console. Right, in the case of the PSVR. And Apple's strength is saying, this is another mobile device. This is a wearable spatial computer. Apple understands computers. They understand technology. They understand wearables. So what Apple wants you to do is think of this product in terms of Apple's strengths. And I think that that's super smart. I think that them spending time on having an M2 as well as a custom chip in order to do all of the real-time processing shows you that's how you want this to feel. Now, I will also admit that as they kept saying that, that part of this product, I started to think the more they say this is a computer and it's a spatial computer and it's using Apple's prowess, I thought every time they do that, the price goes up.
Yes.
Right? Because
what did they call it? The most advanced computer they've ever made, or something?
It was the most advanced personal electronic device ever in the world ever.
I mean, and when they showed just all of the sensors, and because powered by the R1 chip, which is in combination with the M2 chip, I was kind of like, I can see that. This looks like it's doing just an obscene amount of work.
12 cameras, 5 sensors, 6 microphones, 2 4K displays, plus the external display.
Yep.
And, this is what we all sort of were expecting, which is something that is going to max out what's possible, because they want to show, I really believe this, they want to show this technology and this entire concept of what a device can be in the best light possible, rather than it being something that's sort of like broken but affordable. They want to show it first and foremost as amazing, and then they'll deal with making it affordable down the road. In fact, at several points, they did say this is the closest you'll ever get to Apple talking about future products. This is the first step.
Yeah,
they said that several times.
It's clear in the name. Why is Pro in the name?
Yes.
Right, like when there's no other thing.
Yeah,
it's just this.
This is just the beginning. Yeah. Tim Cook says at one point it's a first step. But I will say, every time they talked about the technological prowess, I did think less and less likely that they were going to be a price that was surprising us in a positive way. And so when they dropped the price at $34.99, which is $500 more than anybody expected it to be, even in the highest thing.
I love the build up to that where he listed all of the things inside of it. Like, here we go.
Yeah, like, right, where it's like, well, look, but you're getting these cameras and these things and all that, and you end up with this price. Now, that's an incredibly expensive thing. I will say that the beauty of being in the reality distortion field, as you and I were today, is you have the moment where they say $34.99 and you're like, I don't care what it costs.
Well, so
just give it to me now.
I feel when they said it, I was like, oh, because it was more. But having watched that presentation, I was kind of like, yeah, I think I can see why. And I kind of agree to do it this way.
I think they justified it. I think that there are going to be lots of people who are going to say it's too expensive.
Quite rightly.
And they're going to say a lot of people won't buy it, which we've heard that even Apple actually behind the scenes thinks that it's going to be a relatively low volume product. It's step one.
But they're producing it in low volume. It's US only.
I think, exactly. I think, though, it will be harder. You can still make the case because anybody can have a hot take, but I think it'll be harder to make the case that the price is unjustified. Because I think Apple has, one of the things they had to do today was say, here's why it's like this. It's because we spared no expense and we did all these things and we did this for a reason. And so I think it's a perfectly reasonable analysis for somebody to say, at that price, they're not going to sell any of it. It's going to be, extremely limited, and they're going to need to do better. And I would bet that behind the scenes, people at Apple would say, well, of course, this is the first step. We're going to start here and set the bar. But I think I would not agree with anybody who said, look at this thing. I can't believe they priced it the way they did, because that's a different argument, right? It's not can it sell at that price? It's, is there enough technology in that product for you to understand that price? And on that level, yes, I do. I get why it costs what it costs, even though I also kind of blanch at it and say, because, and that'll be part of the developer question too. Developers will have to say is, how long am I going to have to do work on this platform before I'll be able to make money? Because if they're going to be only, a few 100,000 of these sold in the first year, I'm going to have to, Apple's going to be asking them to make an investment in the long haul in hope of that future return in 2 or 3 or 4 years, 5 or longer, right?
This is one of those things. I was talking with our friend Micah Sargent on Clockwise. We're both going to be on Clockwise today as well. So check out Relay FM, Clockwise. And we both looked at each other and we were thinking the same thing. And he said, maybe it's because I'm here and I'm excited about this, but I feel like I just watched the iPhone keynote from 2007. I want to feel that way.
That's how they want you to feel,
me, right? But I truly feel like I've seen something special today. Like so we went to the Steve Jobs Theater, and upstairs they had the Macs. We'll talk about the Macs in a bit. Downstairs they had just the hardware on like a plinth, and I took some photos, and the photos looked like the photos from Macworld 2007.
Right.
Where it's just, here's the hardware suspended, and there are just too many people to count taking photos.
Right.
But I guess the thing about the 2007 one, there wasn't cameras as such. It was just people looking, because there was no iPhone to take the photo.
Right. There were people there with traditional cameras, but it was mostly just
today was just taking a picture, right? And there is, I think, something about this. I mean, I believe in this general sense of technology anyway. I have for a while. I think that there is something interesting here in AR and VR. Mm-hmm. But what they showed today, the package that they put together of what this thing does, the level of production for the videos, the detail that they went into, it feels to me like we may look back on this one in 10 years and be like, oh man, that was...
I mean, that's what they're shooting for, right?
Yep.
I think this is going to be a historic day one way or another.
Yes.
I don't think there's going to be any in between. Either this is going to be the beginning of something big, which Apple thinks it is, or it's not, at which point we're going to be like, wow, Apple really thought there was going to be something there. But so the moments where there were a few moments where the magic kind of fell apart for me.
Okay.
Where in the attempt to show how useful this thing is, because one of the challenges is how is this useful? Why would you use it, right? It's trying to explain, I think, the fundamental question. Everybody I talk to when I say Apple's doing a headset, they ask, well, why? Why would I do it? Why would I use it? Why would I buy one? And they made some very good points. When they showed Microsoft Office apps running, Dan Morin was sitting next to me, and he laughed out loud. And I thought, well,
I want to do this.
It is kind of like when you go to Microsoft. But the place where it lost me and I think there's a reason for it. One of the places that it lost me was in the we created this amazing 3D photo thing so that when your child's having its birthday party, you can wear a headset and take 3D images of your child doing it. And there were a few other things that were kind of like that, where you're like, well, you could do that, but why? Now, I will make a fearless prediction here, which is that 3D camera technology is coming to the iPhone, because how would you not? Because that's what you want to do, is take 3D video and photos on your iPhone and then watch them on the Vision Pro.
The idea about having a 3D camera on the thing is smart. You can take pictures when you have it on, a thing happens, you take a photo. But there was a dystopian moment of, here's the birthday party, which means you are wearing this thing at the birthday party. Like, that is...
Yeah. And I know why they did it, because clearly there are several shots in this thing where people are walking around doing stuff in the real world. And that is sending the message that this is not a thing that you put on your head and then you stay still and don't interact with the real world. They want people to think this is mixed reality. But that went a little too far. And I think that there were a few other moments like that looked to me like trying a little too hard to sell. And the truth is that some of these things won't be the reasons people want it, and then others will be, and they're taking their shot. But there are definitely a few moments where I thought, well, it's cool that it does this, but there are lots of other ways to do this. I do appreciate that and applaud them for the idea that they have a vision of extended workspaces, whether you're at work or traveling, where, the moment that Federico, I know, just lost it, was, because he was sitting right behind me, right next to you, and Dan reacted this way too. It was very funny. The crowd really reacted. Was when you put the Mac laptop down on the table and the screen goes out and a giant screen appears floating above it.
That is ridiculous.
It's just super cool.
There's no reason to do it that way, but I just love it. They did it that way.
That's right. Well, that's
so, like, just look at your Mac and then there's a huge screen in front of you. And then what I really liked, I'm very keen to know if they're going to allow you to have multiple Mac screens that you could, right? But what they did do, which, like, you got your Mac and your Vision OS apps on either side, and they can all interact with each other.
Which can be iPhone and iPad apps.
Which is, I mean, that will work fantastically.
So the vision here is that instead of having to have a bunch of big displays, you can have a bunch of virtual displays, and you can do that at your office. You could do that at a hotel room. You can do that wherever. And I think that that's really interesting. We haven't even talked about the interaction model, which I think is also very interesting. They're scanning your eyes. They're doing eye tracking. That's good for foveated rendering, where they can focus
just where they need
the highest resolution stuff, which is very clever. But also, it knows where you look. By the way, that was a great part of the privacy thing, because imagine TikTok, I don't like TikTok because it knows when I stop on a video for 5 seconds. Imagine if TikTok knew exactly what images on the video drew your attention. They're reading your mind. It's gross. And they're like, no, we don't do that. There's a totally different system. I appreciated that. But they also showed people curled up on a couch, and they're looking at stuff, and they're just doing very subtle gestures with their hands, because they're doing a click. Because it knows where you're looking, and you're making some very limited gestures. There's like a scroll gesture and a click gesture and like a pinch to zoom gesture, and they're very simple. And I like how that looks. How it works in practice, we'll have to see.
I don't know how comfortable it's going to be. So, like, if I feel like the gestures still looked more than an iPhone. If you're scoring through an iPhone, if you're scoring through your iPhone, you're just doing with your thumb, right? There was a lot of, like, movement of the hand, and I'm not convinced about the like how that will feel to do. But what I like is that you have the ability to connect peripherals to the thing. You can use a trackpad too, because basically I'm thinking if I'm working, I would prefer a keyboard and trackpad.
Even the gaming scenario, they went to it right away, right? Which is, look, if you want to play a game, here's a gamepad.
Yeah, but that's
I liked it in that sense. In that sense that it's like, you're not limited here, but we're going to start you with simple gestures.
Was playing an
iPad
on
game,
a
essentially.
Fake screen.
Yeah.
I still remain intrigued and unconvinced about full VR gaming with just hand tracking. And so we'll see how that goes.
And eye tracking, but yes.
Yeah, but, like, like the PlayStation VR 2 has eye tracking, and it's one of the things people like about it a lot. But they still have the controllers because you need buttons for all of these games.
Yes.
It might be, and as it should be, and because VR needs to break out of that model anyway, so it can, because at the moment a lot of VR games are just the same, and so this hand tracking, eye tracking combo might make some developers kind of pull out of their comfort zones. But realistically, people are going to want Beat Saber on this, and maybe they could do hand tracking Beat Saber. I don't know, but there are going to be things like that.
Pick up your special Bluetooth Saber accessory at the Apple Store.
But if that's what they do, I think that's fine. Like if they ultimately end up working with a company to create an MFI hand controller, I think that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We do need to move on. I do just want to touch on one last thing, which is the word persona for the 3D thing.
Digital persona, yes. I didn't want to talk about that.
Sold on that term. It doesn't feel.
I feel like they almost didn't want to call it an avatar.
I feel like that was what you would want to call it, but they can't.
So they called it. Well, they could.
A persona.
So they called it the digital persona. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it looked incredibly clever, but the truth is, you were literally having your face 3D scanned, and then a digital persona version of you is created.
I feel like it's going to be some weird. I feel like that is going to be. The demo that they showed, it looked very 1.0.
Yeah.
Which is what it is.
Yes.
And I can imagine that will only get better, but looked like just the fact that if they're able to do that and it works the way it does in that keynote, that is unbelievable that they're able to do that from the cameras on this device, because there's no camera actually looking at you. And I know it's like you scan your face and then it's using movement to try and work out what's going on.
To match what your actual expression.
I'm intrigued what that's going to be like. I feel like that's going to be the thing that's going to see the most progression over time.
And I think that there's a real question about what you want your digital persona to represent, because right in this, especially because you're talking about work, FaceTimes and things like that, you want it to represent you. But there's also, not only do you not necessarily want it to represent exactly you, but you may want it to represent you in a particular different state. Like I have a friend who shall remain nameless, who every time we do a Zoom call, she uses the Zoom lipstick and the Zoom eyebrows, because she doesn't want to be represented as she is in the moment. She wants to be represented, augmented in a way. And Zoom lets you do that, which is great. It's amazing. But like those are some of my questions for this persona is, what if I have different personas in different places, or I want my persona to not look like I actually look? And that was not the focus of this, which is fine. And it is a 1.0, but I think that it's interesting. And also, I will say, one way you get out of the uncanny valley is to make the persona less like you. And so people may actually prefer to be more Memoji-like.
And there may be, like, we don't know, right? There may be and there probably is. The
option of just saying, just make me, I want to be an elephant or whatever.
You can do it on FaceTime calls now.
Exactly.
Why would you not also be able to do it there? But you also have, and realistically, if you're going to show one of them today, you'd show this one, because it is fascinating from a technological perspective. Memoji, we know what that means.
Right. It's like, how do you do? Because here, what they were doing is solving the problem of, and we all thought it because they didn't show it until later.
Yes.
Which is, isn't it great? You're having a FaceTime conversation. It's like, well, what are they seeing?
Because
you have this thing on your face, and you don't have a camera pointed at you. And as they said, if you did, you would have this thing on your face. So how do they do that? And then when they show it, you're like, actually, you're kind of relieved, right? Because it's like, oh, it's not like a picture of up my nose or something like that. It looks like me, kind of. And that was the right answer to give here, but there's got to be more to dig into there.
Speaking of more to dig into, we are obviously going to spend weeks talking about this thing.
Months.
And there will be much more information. Just like over the next few weeks, I think I would imagine the show will be pretty much dominated by talking about this.
Yeah.
So we'll pause it today because there's more to talk about.
There is more.
But this episode is brought to you in part by Notion. Project management tools are supposed to help you move faster and stay organized. If you're still jumping between 50 tabs just to get your work done, maybe you haven't found the right tool for you yet. Maybe you're looking for that right tool. That could be Notion. Nothing will slow you down like using the wrong tools to get things done. That's where Notion comes in. Notion have just launched Notion Projects, which includes new, powerful ways to manage your projects and leverage the power of their built-in AI features as well. Notion Projects combines project management with your documents, your knowledge base, and AI, so you can stop jumping between so many tools and paying for too many tools. In just one workspace, you can do everything you need to get your projects over the finish line, from brainstorming to drafting launch plans to organizing sprints and keeping everyone on deadline. I'm very excited about this. I'm starting to look into this for some Cortex brand stuff. Notion Project looks really fascinating. Notion is super customizable. Everyone has preferences for how they like to view their projects, so you can view everything in the way that works best for you, whether that's a timeline, a table, or a Kanban board. There's powerful filtering and automation features, so you can work exactly the way that you want. And you've got, on top of that, Notion AI to help you automate all of that tedious overhead, like summarizing meeting notes or finding next steps, freeing you up to do the deep work. I've actually been playing around with Notion AI to help me with podcast episode descriptions and social media posts to promote shows, because I know the things I want to say. I'm just not sure how to most succinctly say them. So you can ask Notion AI to help you, and it puts it all together for me with all the correct grammar, which I do struggle with sometimes. I've been really, I think that these tools can be really useful as additions to the work that we're already doing to fill in gaps that would otherwise take up a ton of time. Like usually I'd write the description, I'd send it to one of my co-hosts, they would look at it. Well, Notion AI can help me with that instead. Do your most efficient work with Notion Projects. You can try it for free today at notion.com/upgrade. That is notion.com/upgrade, of course, all lowercase letters. So go there right now and support the show at notion.com/upgrade. Our thanks to Notion for their support of this show and Relay FM. We're going to, I think, lightning round the operating systems.
All right, let's do it.
So just as an overall thought, if this WWDC stopped before Vision Pro, that's a good WWDC.
Yeah,
I felt
agree.
like there was a lot here, way more than expected.
Yeah.
Like when they started with, hey, we've got some updates to the phone app. I'm like, wait, what? I wasn't expecting this. And there was just some really interesting stuff, and you could see the progression in some of these things in like the new AirDrop feature, which is Name Drop, which is a fantastic name. Mm-hmm. It took me like 2 minutes. I was like, oh, I get it. Name Drop. I'm looking at like the poster contact thing. This seems to all be like coalescing from lock screens.
Exactly. These are a lot of features that came from lock screens that are moving on. And I think the idea that you, and it's also coalescing from our custom messages images, right? Like you set a message, you set an image for yourself, and that's what your friends see.
I like it that, if I call someone and I assume if I'm not in their phone book, they will now get the image of me and my name. That's how I understood that to be.
I'm not sure if that happens if you're not in their phone book.
Okay.
You may have to add them as a contact. And you can also, because remember, it's somebody else sending you something, right? So they may be like wanting to protect you from bad photos that are being pranked to you.
Yep.
So I think, but if it's in your contacts and then they have the control at that point, you allow them in. And now, so you put on a Santa hat or something because it's Christmas time, and then call me, and I'll see that because
and the whole contact card too.
It's not me choosing how to represent you. You get to choose how you represent yourself, and that means everybody who calls you, who's in your contacts, has this. Unless you say I don't want to use that, they have their own custom thing. That's very clever. I love the idea that, and just follow me here. Remember visual voicemail? That was like one of those key features in the original iPhone thing. Well, with iOS 17, your phone rings and you want to send it to voicemail. You tap send to voicemail, and what happens is they don't go to voicemail. Your phone answers, plays your voicemail message, beeps, begins recording and transcribing what they say, shows it on the screen, and at any point, if you want to pick it up, you tap the button and say, oh, no, I'm actually here, like back when we had like answering machines back 20 years ago. That's all happening on device. There's no carrier support required. It's all just happening on your iPhone. So smart. And how many times I don't know about you. I am constantly getting phone calls where I'm like, I don't know what that is. I send it to voicemail, and then I look at the voicemail transcription and I think, oh, I should have answered it. And this solves that problem. It's like I've absolutely had that problem, and it totally solves it.
So I'm assuming that kind of dictation is being done with the same new tech that's in the dictation and the keyboard, where Apple dropped that they are using a transformer machine learning model, which is the transformer is the T in GPT.
Yeah.
So they are adopting this stuff for autocorrect, for this new transcription stuff. That was a big surprise to me, that they just, hey, we're using transformer models now too. And like, it looked like a thing that I've really wished from autocorrect for a while is more accurate full sentence changing. That like,
right.
if I type something out and there's clearly a word, the tense is incorrect for the rest of the sentence, or I've left maybe an apostrophe out, but then when the rest of the sentence, I actually meant to say where rather than where.
Right.
And you could now go back in and change that for me.
Word 2 seemed to be one of these two things when you typed it, but now that I've gotten to the end of the sentence, I know which one it is, right?
And so, like, I'm really... One, I also want autocorrect to be better because I rely on it and make so many mistakes.
And now it's going to be doing autocorrection that's personal on device for you, which is so good, right? Because one of the big failings in autocorrect lately is that they've been using the masses of humanity and the way that they write things, which is, I mean, it's nice. It's better maybe than nothing, but nothing's going to be better than the way you write.
Yeah. And that's how, like, the stories back in the day of, like, there would be basically what felt like these bugs in everyone's phones where like some kind of spelling error would just propagate.
It would just get
and there were times they had to put out operating system updates to change a spelling mistake.
Hats off to Craig Federighi for actually saying ducking. That's just
that got a big laugh and was a big surprise.
So good. So I think that's really great, and that voicemail feature is brilliant because it serves a need. I didn't think new phone app features was on my bingo card, but essentially being able to build a lock screen like thing for your contact. So when you call your friends or family, they see you represented as you want. That's such a cool, clever idea.
I got 2 things in messages that I wanted so bad and gave up on wishing for. All emoji as stickers. And emoji as tapbacks.
Yes. I'm fascinated by, and I actually wonder how much of this has to do with, why do you choose the sticker pipeline for this instead of the tapback pipeline? Because I thought they would always just eventually add emoji to tapbacks, and that's not what they did. They added stickers to tapbacks, and they added all emoji to stickers. Same result.
Yeah, I think they're so proud of that object occlusion thing where you can pull someone out, and now... Rest in peace, Sticker Drop, an amazing app that was an iMessage app. It's been Sherlock now because Apple now let you add stickers, and it's so much easier to do and also you can make animated ones from live photos. I'm very excited about these features, but yeah, it is odd that they didn't just. But to be fair, this kind of just feels like wouldn't it be good if we had stickers in tapbacks too? And next time, we're just going to move forward and just bring it all together. And I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, I think if you had to choose, you would choose this over just emoji picking because this is more flexible. It's anything as a tap back. I love that.
And I can imagine that it kind of started and it's like, let's just do the whole thing. Because if we do this now, are we going to end up doing this later on? Like adding stickers to tap, let's just make emoji stickers tap backs. And I just like that I could use emoji as stickers. I've wanted that since the beginning of the stickers, right? It's just like, I like this, but sometimes I just want to have an emoji. And now they're all there.
They're all there.
And I'm very excited about that. Let's talk about standby on iOS.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting feature. What I liked about this feature, this is you put your phone in landscape, it uses the always-on display, and you can show clock or widgets.
It's like nightstand on the Apple Watch.
The clock images that they used were beautiful. Like those kind of like old school alarm clock.
And you can
vibes.
choose.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the way that looks.
And I don't know if you caught it, but if you use different MagSafe chargers in different places, since the MagSafe chargers all have their own unique ID, your settings stay the same.
That is provided that you're using, I assume, a MagSafe charger, not a magnetic wireless charger, right?
No, I believe it's
got to be MagSafe.
Although I don't know. I mean, it depends on what the Qi standard is, and if there's like an ID number that gets passed when you do that.
I think that might be a MagSafe.
So it may just be Apple, but the idea there is that if you've got a MagSafe in the kitchen and a MagSafe in the bedroom, and you want them to behave differently in the 2 different places, they will.
Yeah. So this. Standby and FaceTime on tvOS.
Well, let me tell you.
This is all leading towards a HomePod of a screen.
This is all leading toward HomePod with a screen and Apple TV that with a camera. Both of those things. Yeah, the moment that they announced the stand feature, Dan Morin and I, who both written extensively about smart assistants in the kitchen and things like that, we both just looked at each other immediately, because it's like, it's when they started going into the details of like, oh, and you can scroll down and there are widgets, and then you can, and the real clarity moment was, and then you can ask Siri things and it will show them to you on the screen. It's like, well, they've built it now. Yeah. They've literally built a smart assistant.
And no longer need to say hey.
It's just, yeah, exactly. The software now completely exists to build a standalone smart assistant that can live in your kitchen.
With multiple timers. You live in a magical time, like a medical age or something that Federici said. That was very funny.
Well, I hear the time makes the sun go around.
Yeah,
so.
That's what I heard. I heard about that today.
Yeah.
Interactive widgets. This is a thing that I feel like I know exists now, but I have no idea about what is possible.
So I can tell you.
Oh, good.
The idea is, I picked this stuff up while you were having coffee. Interactive widgets are meant to be limited. I think calculator widget.
Sorry, James.
Sorry, James. It's not going to happen. But there are some fundamental things that you can do. So, like, they showed the flashcard. So I think the idea of toggling informational states is probably in there. I'm not 100% on that, but the idea that if you've got a widget that's got kind of like 2 frames, you could go back and forth between them, because that's sort of what's implied by the flashcard thing. And then the idea that you can, very simple things like check a box. So check off a reminder. That's the kind of stuff that's intended here, is very simple interactions for very basic things.
Yep.
Which is great.
With a widget from your internet, complete a to-do, play a pause or song or a podcast. Like the thing that I'm excited about, right? Like I use Timery. Yes. And now I'd be able to start and stop a timer without ever opening the app.
Right, because the widget will just start and stop it.
Because there's no text entry necessarily required, and if you set it up that way, and so that's going to be fantastic.
Maybe Dice by PCalc could be interactive.
Yeah, me and James were actually talking about this beforehand, and I said to him that you're probably more likely to have that, right? Where it's like you can press and you'll get the app will just provide you with a number rather than being able to type in. It's not going to be like a keyboard.
Yeah, there's no keyboard. Yeah, there's no keyboard for sure.
But I'm excited about that.
It's good. It makes widgets are good, right? Like I'm sure there's some grumpy person out there who doesn't say so, but like I think of the things that Apple has introduced in the last few years, these new widgets are very good. They're really nice.
I didn't want them to. I really like the way they look, and I didn't want them to go too far back to what they were. Right. So I think just something in the middle is a really nice touch. Yeah. The journaling app looks fantastic.
Great.
Like I like the way it looks. I think they've put a lot of thought into it. I'm super happy that there's an API, so people can give their information to the journaling app.
Right.
I wish there was. I doubt there is, but I wish there's an API that went the other way.
It doesn't go the other way. So other journaling apps can use that information, but other. So this is it. Other journaling apps can use that information. What you can't do is have apps contribute things into what's known by the journaling app.
But that's fantastic.
But yes, so
if you're day one,
you should be able to use this API and get the same stuff that the journaling app is getting from Apple.
Then I'm over the moon happy about that, because I just think it's the right way to be. Yes. Like I think it would have been really mean.
Almost everything they announced today, if you notice, they're like, it does this great thing. And there's an API for developers. I mean, this is a developer.
Because I read that
that's the way to do it.
There's like an API, and then there is, right? Like an API to offer this information up to the journaling app. But like you can say like, hey, I make a podcast app, and I can say to the API like, oh, someone listened to this podcast.
No, it's the other way.
Oh.
It's the other way. So I don't believe, this is my understanding.
Okay.
Don't ask me how I know that like apps can't contribute items to your day of things that have happened. Also, the rumor that it was going to be all about proximity and stuff, that's also not true.
So how does it know when it says it like you shared the day with
it's
people?
Interactions with people, like texts or phone calls.
Okay.
Or I believe their faces in photos.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's better than the Find My thing, because I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I really want to know more about it, but like I like what they're doing. I like that there's prompts. I like that there is a focus on mental health of it. Like I like the way that they've positioned this app. I think it looks very good. The icon's very pretty. This is one that I want to spend more time digging into. And on iOS is like I'm really, really excited. One of the things I'm most excited about is playing around with that, because I just think it's like a cool thing that they did.
Lightning round.
Yeah. iPadOS, we have lock screen customization. We have widgets. That's great.
Yep.
More flexibility with Stage Manager. Who had that one on their bingo card? Seriously, is the thing that was going to happen this time.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, my bingo card was lid closed, which didn't happen. Yep. But I will point out that you can't do lid closed unless you have something like support for the webcam and the external display.
So that's all got to come before.
Which they now have. So maybe we're on the board to getting to lid closed clamshell mode eventually. Also, yeah, the more flexibility thing. The idea that you can, for example, my complaint was always, I tend to work with one window in the center. That's my primary window that I'm working in when I'm writing a story. And then I like to have some other windows kind of off to the side. And you kind of couldn't do that with Stage Manager before, because they would say, no, that's unbalanced. Let's just put it 2 up. It's like, I don't want it 2 up. And now you're going to be able to do that.
I don't trust Stage Manager until I try it now.
We'll see.
Because it looked perfect the first time.
Sure.
Right.
We were doing, Federico and I were doing like slow-mos of the animations, trying to understand what we were seeing.
And I'm very excited to see, hopefully, maybe there's some changes to macOS Stage Manager. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I would like some enhancements.
I want to do a quick shout out to PDF, because people are like, what, like PDF? Why? That's like phone app. Like, why are we doing this? I'll tell you, I twice in the last year have been in a situation where I wanted to do a collaborative markup of a PDF with somebody. Like a puzzle, and you want to solve it together or something. And what I did is I brought it into Freeform, and it was terrible. And now they're just like, no, you can just do it with PDFs. We're not going to make you go into some other app in order to do the markup. You can just mark up PDFs together. Also using machine learning to figure out this is a form. Too. And yeah, all of that is just, it's really great. PDF is one of those things that I know it sounds boring, but it's paper at this point. It is what Adobe wanted it to be all along, which is it's digital paper. Everybody uses it. Everybody uses the format. And so to see the ability to do that kind of thing, including shared markup with Apple Pencil, I love it. I know it's boring, but I've literally had multiple times where I've tried to do it and had that moment which is this should be easier. And now it will be, hopefully. So that's great.
The Mac got the tvOS screensavers, which is awesome.
Yes.
Right, which is I'm very happy with that. Widgets on the desktop.
On the desktop.
Super cool too.
Yeah, where they do the haze over kind of thing, where they fade into the background, and then you click on desktop, and they come back up as full color and all of that, but they're there.
And then it obviously benefits from the other stuff.
Yeah.
There wasn't.
Mac Gaming got a segment.
Yeah.
Who had that?
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah,
big deal.
Game mode.
That's a big deal.
Game mode, basically, if you put a game in full screen, the Mac now will actually know that you're playing a game and that it gets priority for the CPU and the GPU, which I actually launched No Man's Sky the other day because it came out for the Mac. And I still had Safari and MimeStream and a whole bunch of other apps open. And it just was, the frame rate was terrible. And I was like, oh, yeah, I need to quit all my other apps. Well, the prospect here is that if you launch a game when you have other apps running on your Mac, the Mac goes, oh, you're playing a game now, and prioritizes that for the CPUs and the GPUs. That should help a lot.
Lower latency.
That's really good. And then they're increasing their Bluetooth sampling. They've lowered the audio latency. The whole idea here, is this going to solve everything about the Mac being a gaming platform? No. But it helps.
Genuinely, having Hideo Kojima and the things he said were a very big deal to me. Bringing Death Stranding is fine. Death Stranding is not a new game, and but he said
and our future games,
future projects, and I'm excited about this as the start of a new future for Mac gaming. I was like, oh damn,
yeah,
that's a huge deal.
Yeah,
that is I was excited about that, and again. He has nothing to do with No Man's Sky. I have no idea why that became a thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
Not so much on the Mac. And what else on WatchOS as well was leading up to it, this is going to be the biggest change for our operating system.
There's stuff.
It's new and it looks cool, but it's not.
It's not a complete rethink, except I've got a couple things about the watch. Okay. One is the way that the widgets are built is that you scroll the crown and the widgets come up on top of your watch face. That's really good, and you could choose what widgets go there, which means that if you value widgets, you can get to them very quickly. You don't have to launch an app, and you don't have to be limited to a complication. That's really good. It also means that if you're somebody who uses complications, because you can make a widget with complications in it. So it means that if you have watch faces that you wanted to use, but you can't because you need complications, just use those watch faces now, because you scroll up and there are your complications. They're right there to tap, to go to, to check your rings or whatever you want to do. So that's all really good. It doesn't feel like a rethink, although I did like the part of the app design change that they made that I really liked, is the idea that apps basically have complications.
Yes, yeah, that was really cool.
And that's how you do it. And that I will say, after 10 years of Apple Watch development, that's a great example of Apple realizing how people use the watch. It's like, oh, watch users understand about little icons in the corners that have meaning.
Makes logical sense.
Let's use that to solve this problem of a tiny screen.
There's stuff in the corners on your Apple Watch. Why would it not be all the time?
All the time.
Like it's one of the things that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
good
right.
Logic.
So that part. So it's not the WatchOS rethink that we thought, but I think those are two tangible things that improve WatchOS.
But it's effectively like a rethink of the Siri watch face.
Bringing it to the whole system and saying, why is it limited to that? Because I never used the Siri watch face because I didn't really like it, even though I like the idea of it. And this is like, well, no, just use whatever watch face you want.
Yeah.
And all that information is just right there for you. I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued how that's going to play out. Yeah. I think it could be really cool to have more information kind of just there. And obviously the widgets will be more information rich than a complication.
Yes.
And so, like,
for sure.
I may, for example, stop using my weather complication because I'll use a widget, and then I have a new complication space.
Yes.
Right.
And you can pin, little bits and you can pin widgets. So if you want to put your weather at the top,
that's what I would want to do.
Then,
or if you wanted to put the complications at the top,
you could do
right. So then you could use the photo watch face and still have your complications just at one little, and you're right there.
That's good.
That's really cool. The mood tracking thing, it looks like a really nice experience. I like the visualness of it. That, I think, is very nice to use. It's pleasant to use, which is what you would want from a thing like that if you were feeling down, right? That, like, you don't have to say how you're feeling. You can just choose from a visual.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a nicety to that. I like that part.
And then it tracks it, so it's able to gain some insight about whether you're feeling down or if it's understanding your history. I like that.
And I like the quizzes and stuff that you're able to take, like the evaluations. Nice. It was all really nice.
Can I mention that we were doing the iOS lightning round here? I just want to point out that, or the OS lightning round.
Yeah.
That there was iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and then things that support the audio in the home. tvOS, I guess, would be in that
and
other
AirPods OS
and the AirPods. Like tvOS, actually, we mentioned it earlier. Great. FaceTime on tvOS with continuity camera is great. I do weekly, or I guess it's every other week, Zoom calls with Lauren's family, and we're sitting in front of a big TV, and we end up putting it on like an iPad or a laptop, and it's stupid. So this is great. I think this is going to be great. And the fact, again, they went out of their way to say this will also work with Zoom and anything else, and they're going to be on tvOS for the first time. And so I was very happy with that. And also tvOS, you'll like this as the tvOS reviewer. That new control center for tvOS that isn't stupid.
Yeah, it looked good.
It's actually good.
These were some good updates to tvOS.
Yeah,
there was more in there than I obviously was in my draft. I thought they wouldn't even talk about it, and I'm actually enthused by them doing it this way. Because this gives them the opportunity to talk about this operating system and these features all in one bucket.
Yes.
HomePod and AirPods and TV. Yes. Like, it makes sense to put them all together. And I thought it was a nice presentation.
And as we finish the lightning round, I want to say shout out to Adaptive Audio on AirPods.
That looks good.
And think about it. It's like, again, they took the things they built for AirPods, so transparency mode, noise canceling. And it's like, those are nice, but this is, now that they've been out in the wild for a while, this is what if we could intelligently blend them so you don't have to do that?
Yeah.
You can if you want to, but like, what if we made it so that when somebody starts talking to you, it does something to adapt? What if we made it so that you can hear important sounds that are around you, but not dumb noise that's around you?
Yep.
And being able to try and make some guesses about all of that. That's because, in the end, as great as transparency and noise canceling are, what's even greater is if you don't have to keep reaching up to your ear to toggle between them because the device knows.
It's like, for me, one of the times where I use noise cancellation but I don't want to is when I'm on the tube. Right, because sometimes the trains are really loud, so I want to put noise cancellation on, but I want to be able to hear the announcements. So my hope is that this would provide that, right?
Yeah.
That, like, if there was an announcement, it might be able to pick that up and give that information to me. And so that I would like that a lot. It's worth noting AirPods Pro, second generation only.
Yes.
Which makes me think, we're wearing AirPods Max today. I use AirPods Max when I'm on planes.
Next generation.
I'm now hoping there will be a new generation of AirPods Max that will support this.
All right.
Because, like, for me, a good time is plane. Like, when I was flying over here multiple times, the flight attendant was asking me questions, and Adina had to, like, hit me. He's asking a question.
Yeah, right.
Because I was just watching. I watched 13 episodes of The West Wing on the flight.
Wow.
I didn't mean to do that, but I just started, and that was where I went.
That's what happened.
And so I was engrossed in the show, and I wasn't. But, like, because I couldn't hear that someone was talking to me.
And this shows you how Apple has a philosophy as a company, because this is the same conversation we had about the Apple Vision Pro, which is letting you be as detached from reality as you need to be, but being smart about allowing you to remain attached in some way.
Yep.
This is that kind of idea, that you're on the plane and somebody's trying to talk to you, and it knows and it connects you, unless you want to not be bothered. But, like, I think that's great. I think that's how it should work.
We will talk more about these operating systems over the coming months, especially as we install betas and get time to use them and find out what people are finding out from the
scraps of details
little bits and bobs.
This week we'll learn a lot.
This episode is brought to you by Fitbod. Getting fitter is one of those things that can have huge effects in other areas of your life that you might not otherwise expect, like having more energy and sleeping better, but it can be hard to know where to start, which is why Fitbod is an easy and affordable way to build a fitness plan just for you. They have an algorithm that learns about you and your goals and your training ability to create a custom dynamic program based on your experience and any equipment you have, all within an app that makes it incredibly easy to learn how to perform every exercise. They have over 1,400 HD video tutorials shot from multiple angles to make sure that learning every exercise is a breeze. It will also integrate with your smartwatch, your Apple Watch, and apps like Apple Health as well, so Fitbod can have all of that information available for you. Fitbod creates a fitness path for you. They want to make sure that things are customized to suit you, because that's when, if something is made for you with fitness, it's going to stick and you'll see the results that you're looking for. And they have technology to understand your strength training ability by studying your past workouts and adapting to any available equipment that you have to create a training plan to maximize fitness gains by intelligently varying intensity and volume between sessions to make sure that you're working your muscles correctly. Fitbod will also track muscle fatigue and recovery to design a well-balanced workout routine. Personalized training of this quality can be expensive. Fitbod is just $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year. But you can get 25% off your membership by signing up today at fitbod.me/upgrade. So go now and get your customized fitness plan at fitbod.me/upgrade and get 25% off your membership at fitbod.me/upgrade for 25% off. Our thanks to Fitbod for their support of this show and Relay FM. We got 3 new Macs today.
Yes.
15-inch MacBook Air, new version of the Mac Studio, Apple Silicon Mac Pro.
Apple Silicon Mac Pro is shipping next week.
That is unbelievable
What?
to me.
Huh?
Like out of nowhere?
And for all of our tea leaf reading about what Apple does and why they do it, and, you know, there are a lot of people out there who are like, Apple will never... What will Apple never? Apple will never release an M2. I don't know why they talk like that.
But they do.
Apple will never release an M2 15-inch MacBook Air, because the M2 13-inch MacBook Air has been out for almost a year. They'll never do that. Well, they did it. Apple will never release a Mac Studio with an M2 Ultra in it and a Mac Pro with an M2 Ultra in it. Apple will do a lot of things that people think it'll never do. And the idea here is the Mac Pro is what it is. It's not, it's just got the Ultra chip in it. It's got lots of slots. The slots are not for graphics. They're for storage and networking.
On audio.
And audio and all those things. And they had a bunch set up. And they said, you know, for video editors, they like a lot of this. And for audio editors, they do this. And there's a lot of, like, super fast networking that's done in media fields. And that's what they're doing. And of course, from Apple's perspective, like, they can't, at least yet, re-engineer the way graphics cores work in Apple Silicon. So they're going to lean into the other things because that's what they've got. But it's here. Like, it closes the transition. And now we can start speculating about, like, are they going to do more on the Mac Pro side going forward? But it's out. They shipped it. And they shipped the Ultra at the same time or are about to ship the Ultra at the same time, or the Studio with Max and Ultra. A little curious about why it took them so long to get those Mac Studios out there, but happy to see them out there because as somebody who loves the Mac Studio, I'm glad that the Mac Studio is not a one-off.
I think they maybe didn't want to rev the Mac Studio until they had the Mac Pro.
I think maybe you're right.
Because it sent the wrong message.
And now they can say, here's why you can choose, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I liked that they framed it that way, answering some of those questions about why. And the answer is, look, we have customers who just need this, and we have customers who need this space of the Mac Pro, and so we're going to give that to them. And nothing surprising about it. There's no big
they didn't redesign
conspiracy theory. It is literally the enclosure that lots and lots of space inside it for lots and lots of cards, and that's and there's no change to the RAM and graphics model because it's Apple Silicon, and that's where we are.
And I mean, you can put up to 192 gigabytes of RAM in there, so I think you're going to be fine.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's just the one of those debates about like, but what if I need more GPUs and all of that. However, the star of the show, other than is the 15-inch MacBook Air, because here's the thing. It's not any different from the 13-inch MacBook Air. It is an M2 MacBook Air that's bigger. I got to hold one.
Me too.
It is, other than the fact that there's more space on the sides of the keyboard because it's a bigger computer and it's got a bigger screen. If you didn't know about this, if you didn't notice the space on the sides of the keyboard, you might not even understand whether you were not just looking at a 13-inch because they're designed the same, they look the same. It's just bigger. The battery is. It's got the bigger screen. Presumably, it's got better battery, too. The net result is the same quoted battery life. The only thing that's really different, other than the fact that the screen's bigger and it's a little bit heavier, is that the audio's a little bit bigger. There was room for, like, 2 more drivers, I guess, in the audio. But, like, basically, it's the 12 or 13-inch MacBook Air, but bigger.
Yeah.
13-inch MacBook Air, most popular laptop around, essentially.
Best computer.
You and me both.
Yeah.
And some people want a bigger one. Like it is Apple. Look, Apple could have said, well, if you want a bigger laptop, pay more than $1,000 to get a MacBook Pro. And some people will say yes. A lot of people will say no.
Yep.
I think the 15-inch Air is going to be a big hit.
Yep.
Maybe bigger than the 13-inch. If not, because they're a couple $100 apart, because they cut the price of the M2 Air by 100, which is great.
Awesome. You can see it's getting closer and another year or two, it's $999.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
It's getting there.
So that's the one that like all of us jaded Apple watchers are like, yeah, okay, MacBook Air, M2, boring, whatever. That thing is going to be a hit. And, people are going to love it. And it's going to be really, really good and successful because the 13-inch model is great. And now there's one for $100 more than the 13-inch model used to cost until today. You can get a 15-inch laptop, and there hasn't been a 15-inch Mac laptop in that price range for a while.
Yeah, if I used my laptop more like a laptop, right, like it's plugged into my studio display most of the time, like I think I would prefer the 15 over the 13 because you get more screen
more space, like more space.
Right now, I don't have enough screen space to do what I'm doing, but most of the time this is not a problem to me because I'm plugged into a display, and I like having the small form factor for traveling.
And I know a lot of our listeners are MacBook Pro people, and they're like, well, you just get a MacBook Pro. But the MacBook Pro...
You don't need a MacBook Pro anymore.
16-inch MacBook Pro is so expensive.
It's also so much bigger. It's heavier.
Well, and it's bigger and it's heavier and all those things. And like some people might choose that just for the screen size. But what the 15-inch Air suggests is, which I think is true, there are a lot of people who are just not going to spend $2,500 on a laptop to get a bigger screen. And Apple wasn't serving that audience.
There are a lot of people that use their laptop for everything. They watch all their media on their laptop, right? Like I'm thinking like students and stuff, right? Like, or if you flat share and you just have a bedroom, right? You don't necessarily want to put a TV in there. Like, wouldn't it be better to just have a bit bigger screen? This thing's going to do good.
I think
picked it up and was
it's going to be a hit.
Genuinely surprised about how light it was.
It's like 3.3 pounds. It's pretty light.
Really good.
Yeah.
I wanted to check like what the weight difference was between the 13 and 15. So it's 2.7 pounds for the 13, 3.3 pounds.
Yeah. So it's half a pound heavier, but it's also a 15.3 inch display. It's a really nice size display.
Looked good too. I went for the whole demo. They were showing a bunch of stuff. It's like it's an M2
It's an M2 MacBook Air. It's just a bigger screen. That's literally all it is. And I know we can all be like, oh, again, it's so boring. It's like, yeah, it is boring. It's also going to be an enormous hit. And in this calendar year, the most important product that Apple announced today. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know what I wanted to talk about real quick?
Sure.
Before we wrap up, is the availability thing of the Reality Pro. So like I have
Vision Pro.
Vision Pro.
You got to stop saying it.
I will get there eventually. The Apple Vision Pro it's facing a potential conundrum for me, of like available in I'd say January, February next year, and
US
like
only,
an unknown time. Well, I mean, I gotta get one.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I have someone buy one and ship one to me? Do I come to America?
Big Vision buddy. Oh, coming to America.
I could do that. I could take a flight to like, I don't know, somewhere on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just going to be an interesting thing. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there, but I have a lot of time to think about that. But anyway, that was a diversion. Back to the Macs. I am interested in this Mac Studio because for me, so I think for me in the future, a Mac Studio is a good idea for me. Because right now I'm using a 14-inch MacBook Pro that is permanently in clamshell mode as my recording and production machine at the studio, just because I have it, right? So like when I got the MacBook Air, completely won me over with the review unit, and I was like, this is the laptop I want, but I still need something to produce my shows, and that's really powerful, and it's doing a great job for me. And I always thought maybe, the Mac Studio makes sense for the actual physical setup that I have, but I was nervous that it was a one and done, but it's not.
It's not.
So now, like, I don't know when or if I'm probably a couple of years away now from I still wanting to
sell that
upgrade
MacBook
that
Pro.
machine.
Sell that MacBook Pro.
I might do. I'll see. But like, my point now is like I now feel confident
in Mac Studio.
In Mac Studio as a thing that I can like get on board with that idea.
Mac Studio is more of a representation of Apple's vision of what computing is in Apple Silicon for Pro users than the Mac Pro is.
Yep.
The Mac Pro is like there because it needs to be there and it's nice to have it and all of that. But the fact is that given the priorities that Apple has done for Apple Silicon in terms of things like closely integrating the GPU and the memory and all those things, the Mac Studio is the ultimate kind of iteration of that philosophy. The Mac Pro is more like a little sideline where it's tweaked a little bit and it's a little more modular because some people want that. But like the purity of the vision, I think, is that Mac Studio.
Yeah. What a day.
Big day.
Huge day. This is going to take some time to process. I feel like we had 2 WWDC keynotes today.
It felt like that a little bit, doesn't it?
And so I'm very excited to be here and we can bathe in the information over the next few days, and then we'll be recording together again on Monday.
My house,
as we'll ring in the beginning of the summer of fun, and we'll talk more about this stuff. We'll have more information, and we'll be able to dig into it further. Speaking of the summer of fun, don't forget that you can get your exclusive official Summer of Fun merchandise right now by going to upgradeyourwardrobe.com. Go and check out the new Thunderbolt Dock Surf Shop t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's very fun, very cool, great colors.
Yeah, thanks to designer JD.
Yes.
I had a vision of like a surf shop shirt, and JD came through.
JD came through.
Yep.
If you want to send us your feedback, follow-up, and questions, I'm sure you'll have a ton of Ask Upgrade questions for us the next week. Go to upgradefeedback.com. You can check out Jason and Dan's work at sixcolors.com. I'm sure you're going to have a ton of stuff going on over the next few weeks. You can hear Jason's shows here on Relay FM and theincomparable.com. Check out Downstream and the new Downstream Plus. That's a really cool thing you're doing.
Yes.
You can listen to my shows here on Relay FM and check out my work at cortexbrand.com. We're on Mastodon. Jason is at jsnell on zeppelin.flights. You can find me as at imike on mike.social. You can also find the show as at upgrade on relayfm.social, where you can also see video clips along on our TikTok and Instagram accounts. We are at Upgrade Relay on both. I was hanging out with a video consultant of the show, Jeremy Burge, yesterday, and he posted an official TikTok face reveal for me,
saw.
which is apparently a thing.
Yeah.
We, thanks to the people at Apple, have video of this.
Yes, we'll try to post it somewhere.
Yeah. So this show, I mean, you've already heard it now.
Yes.
But there'll be a video version if you just want to see what it looked like.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll put some clips up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to our members who support us at Upgrade Plus. You can go to getupgradeplus.com to find out more. Thank you to Fitbod and Notion and Squarespace for their support of this show. But most of all, thank you for listening. Until next time, say goodbye, Jason Snell.
Goodbye, Mike Hurley. Upgrade Plus time. Hey,
Okay.
Upgrade Plus fans. We have a ticking clock. We have 45 seconds left. Guess what? Upgrade Plus is this today and only this. We hope you enjoyed the whole episode without ads, but with not really a lot extra other than this.
We never
we love
do this.
you.
We're really sorry. We do not have the time today to continue. We didn't even have enough time to fit in everything.
Consider this week's Clockwise to be Upgrade Plus,
sure.
if you like.
We'll make it up to you next week.
Yeah. For sure. In my backyard, probably.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Cut the live stream.
Yeah. Ooh.